Force is strong in my family. The Force is strong in my family. My father has it. My father has it. I have it. I have it. My sister has it. My sister has it. You have that power too. You have that power too. In time, you'll learn to use it as I have.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Chewie, we're home.
My Nerd World.
So there had been quite a bit of talk about when we were going to get the physical release, home release, whether it's Blu-ray or DVD or Betamax for those of you that are still living in the Stone Age. When were we, Laserdisc, when were we going to get The Force Awakens at home? And we initially were hearing, and I say we as in the group of all of us that love Star Wars, we were being, or at least thought, that we were going to get it around April 5th. And then I started hearing some rumors, started hearing some rumors that we weren't actually going to get the movie to bring home until sometime in June. And I cried. I cried Jedi tears because that made me sad. Then today, right before I go to do episode number 41 of the My Nerd World podcast, I am your host, John Justice. How's it going? I see on StarWarsNewsNet.com they have a brand new story posted just today that The Force Awakens will apparently be hitting digital platforms on March 15th. Now, this would certainly lend itself to what we've heard with that original April 5th date. And as a matter of fact, Star Wars News Net has a subsequent story talking about how the Force Awakens Blu-ray set may feature 3 discs. So if this is true, then we're looking at, 3 weeks? 3 weeks, and we'll be able to own Star Wars The Force Awakens on iTunes. If you're on Xbox, like I am, Xbox 360, it'll be available certainly for download digitally there. I purchased for my father for Christmas. Walmart had this really cool The Force Awakens digital pack that had these 3 posters in it. And so it's kind of exciting knowing, hey, he'll be able to go and use that digital pre-sale that I bought for him over Christmas, and just here in a few weeks. So that's really exciting, and they're going to take more of my money because I am too weak-willed of a person to not purchase a digital copy and then also purchase a physical copy when it comes out. But that is okay. I do not mind. I love Star Wars The Force Awakens that much, and I would have paid $40 for one physical release of it. So the podcast is being recorded. It's a little later than when I normally produce the podcast. I'm actually doing this on Sunday night. I was going to wait until Monday when I got home from doing my Monday through Friday radio show on 104.1 KQTH. But I sat down. Well, let me back up. This was opening weekend for NASCAR, essentially. It started last weekend, but this weekend was the Daytona 500 weekend, and so I've been spending much of the weekend watching NASCAR racing, the trucks and the Xfinity Series, and then very disappointed in today's Daytona 500 because my driver Dale Earnhardt Jr., which I also subsequently do a weekly podcast race preview of, crashed out towards the end of the race as he was trying to go for the lead. And so thankfully I'm at the point now in my life where I don't let that adversely affect me. I have that moment of a gut punch and I go, oh, I waited the off season to see him wreck in the first race of the season with a really fast car. And then I quickly get over it and I just finish watching the race. So I was late to doing the Star Wars podcast this week, and again, I was thinking because just it's been a long day. I was like, you know what? I'll wait and do the podcast tomorrow when I get home from work. And then I sat down and I saw this news about The Force Awakens hitting digital platforms coming up on March 15th, and I went, man, I forgot there were some things that came out this week that happened, and I really don't want to wait to talk about them. Before I get to some of the news items, because there was one particular big thing that happened this week that is probably going to end up dominating most of my podcast today. I'm on Star Wars Newsnet, and I'm looking at this story that I was mentioning of The Force Awakens coming out. Yesterday's reveal of a 3-disc Blu-ray DVD set, another tidbit from Blu-ray.com's website. The movie is set to arrive on iTunes as of March. And let me give you some of the other... well, if you click on the link, and then you can go into and you can see some of the download information. But if I click into the story where they provide a few more details, basically they say that more than likely an official announcement from Disney will be coming soon. And I would hope that we would get some Rogue One news along with this. Right? I mean, one would think. And you know what? From a marketing standpoint, that kind of makes sense. Let's get Star Wars The Force Awakens out in its, here's the final thing for the movie for now. The physical release. And then now that that's out, okay, and everyone's watching Star Wars, let's hit them upside the head with what to expect in this year's Rogue One. And again, I have more to talk about because there's some Rogue One packaging news. Some people have seen some artwork at the toy fair that I was talking about last week, and I want to share with you what they saw. But the thing that really caught my eye here on Star Wars Newsnet was you scroll down, and there's a poll that says, how many times have you seen Star Wars The Force Awakens? Before I get into the results here, which are not all that surprising, the photo they use... it's a photo that was on. There were 2 covers that were done for Empire magazine. There was a dark side and a light side, and they chose the photo here of the light side one, and it's got Finn on the left in a wearing Poe's jacket with the blaster at his side, and they're standing on sand, and then it's got a picture of Rey with her staff walking towards, walking in frame, and then right behind her is Poe Dameron with some TIE fighters, and then the Millennium Falcon and BB-8 off to the side. Just a really nice piece of artwork showing the trio and then BB-8 and the Millennium Falcon. When I saw the picture, it made me pause for a moment because it's a very simple picture. And then it made me think, that's part of the reason why The Force Awakens worked, because it was kind of a simple movie. And I know this, I've talked about this before, and I intended to, and we'll see if I'm able to sneak in this conversation, but I had intended to talk a little bit about why we love Star Wars, and I may end up just doing that now. But The Force Awakens really is much like A New Hope. I mean, it mirrors A New Hope, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it really is just a simple, fun movie, and it's so cool to me that still works. It's really, I'm really interested in how they advanced the story. They provided these brand new characters, and it wasn't anything overly complicated, and it wasn't bloated like so many of these films. I mean, it really was just a breath of fresh air, and it's so enjoyable to watch because it really does feel a little bit more like real life. You watch, say, superhero movies, right? Was watching The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and really enjoyed that movie. Not so much on repeat viewings. It's interesting. I threw it in really expecting that I was going to really get into it, and maybe it's because I broke it up over multiple nights. I couldn't watch it sitting down all in one sitting, but I really walked away going, I'm not enjoying this movie as much as I did. But when you think about the Marvel and Avengers movies, I mean, those movies are they're fun, but they are so full, and almost to the point where it's just too much. the one thing about Avengers Age of Ultron that I didn't like, and again, I may have mentioned this on another podcast. This is, by the way, you probably noticed this already, but this is kind of a habit with me. I'm very aware, just because of the now going on 20 years that I've been doing radio, that I am very sensitive to repeating things. I don't like to repeat commentary unless I address the fact that I've already said that commentary. And so and I probably shouldn't give away my secret, because now you're going to hear it every single time I say it. But that's why I'm very quick to go and say, as I may have said on another podcast. But the end of Age of Ultron, as I may have said on another podcast, the end of Age of Ultron, it was too much when they were taking the city up into the sky, and it just, I mean, I know it's a superhero movie, but it was just kind of like, really, this is what we're doing now. When you look at The Force Awakens and how fast it moves and how much fun it is, I just think it's cool that you can still do a story like that, and it still is able to captivate an audience and wow and amaze fans, and it's still enriching to this franchise. You know, working through the prequel movies, watching them now after seeing The Force Awakens, and those are very rich films. I mean, Lucas put a lot more into it, and I really do think that the beauty of what Star Wars A New Hope was able to do was mostly due to the fact that George Lucas had a lot of limitations. And of course, this is the complaint that people have, that when George got his hands on technology, he packed too much into it. There's a joke, The Force Awakens teaser trailer out there that they say is the George Lucas edition, where you see the shot of the Millennium Falcon doing that barrel roll over the sand, and the two TIE fighters coming at it. And in this trailer, they added like 50 of them. And when you see Rey ripping across the sand of Jakku on her bumper car, you know, they added in, you know, a bunch of huts going across this. I mean, things like that, right? You know, Star Wars A New Hope was limited, and yet because of that, it made it really special. You know, and to George's credit, when he was able to go back and even do the special editions, he didn't really pack it full much of anything else apart from the Jabba the Hutt scene on Tatooine, which I actually really enjoyed. But then you flash forward to The Force Awakens, and in mirroring and echoing, in going back to go forward with The Force Awakens, they really were still able to create this fun, simple, engaging, compelling, and emotional movie. And I just think that's cool to me. I love the creative process, and it's a comfort knowing that is something that audiences will still flock to. Because we're talking about stories. I mean, if you've got good characters and you've got good stories, it should work. And that's what The Force Awakens has. I still, for the many times that I've watched that movie, I want more of all these characters. And as a matter of fact, well, okay, let me hold on. Let me grab a piece of paper here, because I'm going to lose my train of thought, and I'm not going to go back to this particular point. Star Wars, Lego, Resistance. Okay, I'm going to put that right there. I'm going to circle it so I go back to it. All right, because I want to make a broader point. But I want to mention this just really quick, because I said that I did, that I was going to. So there's a poll up at StarWarsNewsNet.com, and it talks about how many times have you seen Star Wars The Force Awakens. The overwhelming response at 25% was 3 times. 24% was 2 times. 4 times was 16. 1 time was 9. 5 times was 11. And then you go 6, 4%, 7, 3%, 8 times 2%, 9 and 10 times 1%, and then more than 10 times 2%. I fell into the 8 times category? 8 or 9? Well, at least 8 in the theater. And I need to ask my dad, because I know he went to go see it for one last time in the movie theater this weekend, and I'm curious as to how many times he's ended up seeing it now. All right, back to what I was going to say about these characters and wanting to see more of these characters. I'm ready to move on, except for Luke, and then we're going to talk about that in a moment. But I am, as a fan, I'm ready to move on. J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan did a great job in bringing these new characters. and I already want to follow them. You know, and to a certain extent, I almost like them, and I know this may sound strange,